We're going to give our predictions for who's going to win certain awards, like Coach of the Year, MVP, things of that nature. We're going to predict who's going to make the playoffs, who's going to win each playoff game, and eventually who is going to win the Super Bowl. Let's start off with the awards, and then we'll do the NFC, and then we'll do the AFC, and we'll do the awards first. Then I'll do the NFC. I'll do the NFC. You do the NFC. I do the AFC. You do the AFC, and then we do Super Bowl.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. So, and I also did, I'm not sure if you did this, I did candidates as well. So I did 3 candidates for each award as well. I just did it because it was honestly easier. But I'll start off with Coach of the Year. My 2 runner-ups are, I think, Vic Fangio. I think that he's going to end up being a candidate. And again, keep in mind, the Coach of the Year is always narrative. This is the biggest narrative award that the NFL does. So I think that Vic Fangio, I think John Gruden also, those are 2 guys that their teams are going to be a lot better than people realize, like people expect them to be, I think. And then I do have the Coach of the Year. I have it going to Bill Belichick. I think he has the best chance of winning it. I think if the Patriots just make the playoffs, because there's so little names, he's going to end up winning it. And I think they would like to give it to him. I just think he hasn't had the narrative. Now that he has a narrative, I think it's going to be Bill Belichick. So that's who I have for Coach of the Year. Who do you have?
So we are going to agree on this one. We have Belichick. I have candidates for all of these as well. And I'm with you. It's a lot of it is narrative based. So I think that a lot of it is going to be teams who didn't make the playoffs last year who do make the playoffs. So my candidates are probably exceed a lot of people's expectations. My 3 candidates outside of him were Mike Tomlin, Bruce Arians, and Frank Reich, which probably tells you a lot of, it's telling towards my playoff predictions. But yeah, so I have Frank Reich, Bruce Arians, and Mike Tomlin as guys who can win. But, going away from that narrative is if I'm doubling down on Patriots winning the division, then Bill Belichick's the Coach of the Year, I think. If he wins 11 games with this team, then I think that it's very telling of how dominant he is as a head coach and how much better he is than everybody else.
Yeah, well, and I also should be clear, like I say, I'm just picking who I think has the best chance of winning. So, I think Bill Belichick has a great chance of winning. I also don't think the Patriots have the best chance of winning their division. So, it might seem inconsistent, but it's just I'm doing it percentage-wise. We'll go to the biggest award, MVP. Lamar won it last year. I think that the 3 guys that I feel very confident will be in the running will be Lamar again, Mahomes again, and Russell Wilson. I think that they want to give it to Wilson so bad. If it's close, Wilson's going to get the tiebreaker, but I'm still going to go Lamar Jackson. And here's why. Because I think that the award, the writers and the people that vote on these things, they love records. They love when someone breaks records. And I think it's going to be a lot easier to break rushing records for Jackson than it is to break passing records for Mahomes or Wilson. I think that's going to give him an edge. And unlike basketball, they will give it to the best player. It's not just a straight up narrative thing. Their narrative plays a role, but it's not as big of a deal as it is in other sports. I'm going to go Lamar here.
Yeah, I think, I mean, that's fair. He just won MVP, so I can't fault it. I actually had 6 candidates that I wrote down as I was just brainstorming ideas.
That's good. Yeah, I like it.
So I have Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, Carson Wentz, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Aaron Rodgers. So let's go through all of these. Wilson, I think. No, so I had Wentz over Dak.
Were you afraid of getting made fun of?
Yeah, well, I had Wentz over Dak because I think Wentz, because of the options that he has at receiver and all that, I think Wentz needs to play at an MVP level for the Eagles to win the division, where I don't really think Dak necessarily needs to play at an MVP level for the Cowboys to win the division. I mean, that's just my personal opinion. I think that he's also a guy who could make that leap. If you're looking at arm talent, we've talked about this before, Wentz might be 1 or 2 just based on pure arm talent. Now, the questions with him have always been health. I think with that good offensive line, I think he can make a huge difference for Philly. I ended up picking Wilson because of that narrative. I think that they want to make Wilson the guy, and I also think that the Seahawks are going to be very good this season. So I'm going to go with Wilson. I had a couple other guys. Watson I think he's going to be very good, and I think he's another guy like Wentz who I think needs to play at an MVP level for his team to make the playoffs. We'll get into that further down. I think he needs to play at that level. Mahomes and Lamar, I think, are always, 2 people you should pencil in as potential for the award because they're the best 2 players in football, probably, especially at quarterback. And then the last one I had was Rodgers, which might be a shock because he has, you probably say he has regressed over the last couple of seasons. But couldn't you just see him have like a big FU kind of season where, they draft a quarterback rather than a receiver that he wants, and he just goes nuts because he's pissed off at everyone, including his own team, and just goes nuts and has that kind of season where he wins the award and the Packers go 13-3 again? I mean, that's the scenario I see for Rodgers.
Yeah, I don't know if he'll be able to get the statistics to do it, but yeah, fair enough. And again, we can sort of plow through these a little bit. We'll go on to offensive player of the year. I'm going to go. I have two runner-ups, Nick Chubb, and could be considered a homer pick. I'm going Mike Evans here, but I actually think that Evans, when he gets more attention with 5 primetime games, people are just going to notice him more, and he might kind of have that, oh, wow, look at how good he's been, even though he just does what he does. He might get the more attention and get some added looks that way. But I think the fair bet is Christian McCaffrey. Also, complete unrelated note, have you been keeping up with the Clippers-Mavericks game at all?
I haven't been keeping up with it. I've been on this, but
I'll let you know what happened. Want me to let you know what happened?
Yeah, go for it.
The Mavericks came back, beat the Clippers in overtime. Series tied 2-2.
Yeah, I texted my friend the other day, how fun is the Houston-Dallas conference finals going to be? But, with Luka battling injuries and Kristaps not playing today, we'll see. I'm obviously a big Mavericks fan because of Luka, but we'll see. That's a great win, though. But
anyways, yeah, sorry. Just saw that. Figured I should let you know. Who do you have winning offensive player of the year?
So my candidates were, I actually put Godwin/Evans.
Gotcha. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I think that they're going to take enough catches away from the other that it kind of washes each other. Derrick Henry is a candidate, but I think, as I talked about on the AFC South podcast, I think Tennessee regresses. So then my last two candidates that I consider were McCaffrey and Elliott. I think Ezekiel Elliott could have a big season this year, especially because I think he's going to lead the Cowboys. The one I am picking, though, is Nick Chubb. We've talked about this a lot, or at least I've talked about this a lot. Stefanski has the perfect offensive set for what they're going to do. I think he can have a big season behind that offensive line that's rebuilt, plus a guy who gave Dalvin Cook the ball a lot. I think Chubb is going to get the ball a lot, and I think he's going to have the offensive player this season.
Yeah, fair enough. We'll get on to defensive player of the year now. I have candidates. I have Aaron Donald because you have to put him in as a candidate, although I'm not going to give him the award this time. You have Chandler Jones, who I have as a candidate because he is destined to be a candidate and not win it. The NFL seemingly the voters refused to actually give him the award. I think the person that will win it, though, will be Myles Garrett. It seemed like he was the front runner to win it last year before he got accidentally swung his helmet at another man's head. I think that he seems like the odds-on favorite to win it. That's what I'm going there.
Yeah, so I had I had Watt and Garrett as well. I had the two Broncos guys as far as Chubb and Miller go. I think Jones can also be a candidate. If they go cornerback 2 years in a row, I really like Jalen Ramsey and Tre'Davious White. Aaron Donald, I'll probably go with Donald just because it's Aaron Donald. Kind of, it's like picking the Spurs in the mid-2000s to win the title. If Aaron Donald's healthy, he's probably one of the two or three best players for defense in football. So I'm just going to pick him. I think it's a safe pick.
Yeah, I think that's fair. We'll go on to offensive rookie of the year now. So two more, offensive rookie and defensive rookie. For me, I think I can't not pick a running back for offensive rookie of the year. It's not always a running back, but it's so much more, it's often than not is a running back. So the two candidates I have are J.K. Dobbins and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I think that both of them in the situation that they're in should be very good. But for their starting running back, I am going to go Cam Akers here. I think that he's going to get the carries with the Rams, and I think that he's a really good player.
That's a great pick. I think I think he's going to have a good year with Los Angeles. I'm not going to count out Joe Burrow just because they have a lot of talent in Cincinnati. And obviously, being the one quarterback starting that, I think that's an easy pick. I think if you're looking at receiver, I think Henry Ruggs is the best candidate because while I was higher on Judy and CeeDee Lamb coming out of the draft, I think that Ruggs is in a position where he can be the number one receiver right away. I think he could have a good season. I think that's a good option. I I'm going to go with DeAndre Swift. I think he could have a big year for Detroit. I think that's going to be an interesting pick. I thought personally, like I like the ceiling of guys like J.K. Dobbins a lot more, but I thought Swift was the most complete back ready to go week 1 for an NFL season. And I still kind of feel that way. I think he can have a big year. I think Detroit's offense can be pretty good, and I think he could be a good option in the running back.
Yeah, not a bad pick. I'm not sure if he'll get the touches. I'm also not sure if he'll get the media attention. I think things out of his control are kind of the reason why I didn't have him as a candidate. Defensive player of the year. We both talked about in the past. Chase Young is the obvious front runner. For my two candidates, I have Isaiah Simmons and Patrick Queen as the two candidates. Honorable mention to Antoine Winfield, but again, I'm not going to go with $2 here. I do think that, again, you do need some element of media attention. So I think like a Patrick Queen playing for a good team, that can help him. And I think Isaiah Simmons sort of being just a unique player could help him. I mean, we saw how Nick Bosa, I mean, I think it's fair. I thought Josh Allen could have got it. I'm not mad that Nick Bosa gets it. But the reason why it was such a runaway was largely because, he also got some media attention. I think that helps. But I think that for this, I think Chase Young is such a talent. It seems like he's, it's his to lose.
Yeah, I didn't really have any other candidates. It's Chase Young if he's healthy. I mean,
right.
In all seriousness, I think that the tough part with a lot of the other defensive players that I really liked is they're in positions that typically struggle their rookie seasons. Guys like C.J. Henderson, guys like Derek Brown. Right. I think Queen and Kenneth Murray are very good picks. And I know you made a video on him too. I think Willie Gay is athletic enough to where he can make enough plays on defense as well to where he could be a candidate as well, but I don't know if he's going to be good enough his first season to be defensive rookie of the year. I just think he's an outside candidate and might be a little sleeper for somebody who likes that. But I think it's Chase Young's to lose, like you said. If he's healthy, he's winning it.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll get on to we'll predict now the playoffs and everything like that. So we'll start off with the NFC, and I'll go first, and then I'll let you follow me. So I'm just going to go through the whole NFC. So by the time I finish talking, you will know who I have as the Super Bowl pick for the NFC. I'm going to go for the number 1 seed. I'm going to New Orleans Saints. I gave them the highest grade it might have been out of any team. Let me double check that real quick. 1 second. But yeah, I had them as the highest grade. They're definitely the most complete team. And yes, they were the highest overall by a pretty good margin, a solid 0.3 points over the next highest team, the Chiefs. I have them as the number 1 seed, 49ers number 2 seed, Packers number 3 seed, and Eagles as the number 4 seed. So Eagles win the division over Dallas. This now means that I have 5 playoff candidates. The 5 candidates I have is Minnesota, Tampa Bay, Seattle, the Rams, and the Cowboys. But the 3 teams that I am going to make playoff teams in the order of best to worst in terms of seeding, Tampa Bay gets the 5 seed, Seattle gets the 6 seed, and I'm giving Minnesota the 7 seed right here. And with that, it means that, again, the 4 division winners are the Saints, the 49ers, the Packers, and the Eagles. The 3 wild cards in the NFC, Vikings, Seahawks, Buccaneers. So now we get on to the playoffs. So with this, the way this works, first, Philadelphia plays Tampa Bay. I like Tampa Bay in this matchup. I'm going to give the win to Tampa Bay. Then we have Green Bay against Seattle, which, again, because they have to play against each other, I'm going to give Green Bay to win into that. And the San Francisco 49ers against the Vikings. We saw how it went last year. San Francisco wins. So now we have the 4 teams in the divisional round. New Orleans against Tampa Bay, division matchup. I think the winner of this, just to spoil a little bit, I think the winner of this game goes to the Super Bowl. I think the Saints win this football game, as much as it pains me to say. So I'm going to give the Saints the nod. For the 49ers and Packers, I have the 49ers winning. Again, we saw how it went last year. But then in the NFC Championship game, New Orleans, they beat San Francisco. They move on to the NFC. That is my pick for the NFC.
Yeah. So my NFC bracket. So I had, based on these rankings, I had a bunch of different playoff teams to sift through. We have no same division winners.
Wow.
Fun fact. So I am going to go with
really.
Crazy. I'm going to go with the Buccaneers as the 1 seed.
Okay.
I think that this is going to be an elite offensive group. Plus, they had a very good defense last year, who was just plagued by a guy who threw too many turnovers and put him in the worst position to be successful. And part of the reason why I have Arians as a coach of the year candidate, because I think they are going to get that 1 seed. So I have the Buccaneers as a 1 seed. I have the Seahawks winning the division, sneaking out over San Francisco as that 2 seed. I have the Vikings as the 3 seed over the Packers just because of that defense. I think it can be that good of a group. And we've talked enough about the Eagles and Cowboys. I have the Cowboys in spot where you had the Eagles. From there, we have 3 playoff spots. I have the Saints, the Packers, and the 49ers, with barely missing out is the Eagles and the Rams, of course. I think the Saints are probably, in my book, the second best team in the NFC, but somebody has to win the division. Someone has to take the wild card spot. So whether it is the Buccaneers or the Saints in that 5 seed, they're probably going to feel wronged either way because I think they are the best 2 teams personally. The Packers are an elite group, I think, with Aaron Rodgers. And then the 49ers, I have the 7, which is probably the biggest shocker of the group. The only reason I say this with the 49ers is because we've seen so many of these teams that were Super Bowl losers the following year come out in kind of that slump with that slow start. So if they go out with that slow start, I think they're good enough to make the playoffs because they're that good of a team that they built a great roster. But I could see this team slipping in the start of the season and having to bounce back and claim that 7 spot. So from there, which makes it the toughest thing because I have the Seahawks and 49ers in round 1. That's the worst case scenario for a 2 seed to have to play the 49ers in the first round. So I'll go to the playoffs here. I have the Seahawks and 49ers, like I just said, in the first round. I'm going to take the Seahawks. I think they just, there's one weak group in this thing. It's the offensive line, obviously, with the Seahawks. I think they have a complete roster overall. Besides that, and, they've just proven to win football games without a great offensive line, which I don't think necessarily matters. An offensive line does matter, but they've proven to win a lot of football games without an offensive line. And I think if Russell Wilson's going to win the MVP, I think he's going to make a run in the playoffs. I'll take him over the 49ers. I have the Vikings and Packers in another divisional matchup in the first round. I'm going to flip this one. I'm actually going to go with the Packers here. I think the biggest difference is going to be, earlier in the year, I said I think the Vikings have a higher ceiling than the Packers, but if they're matching up, I'm betting on Rodgers over Cousins. And I just think that's a big thing. Cowboys and Saints, I have the Saints by a lot, even in Dallas. I just think the Saints, like I said, that's a tough matchup for them. So with that, moving on, I have the Buccaneers and Packers, 1 versus 6. I have the Buccaneers moving on. And then from there, we have the Seahawks. And if I'm looking at this right, the Saints. I think some more Russell Wilson magic is going to happen at home. There might be fans by that time in January. I'm going to go with the Seahawks making it to the division or the NFC Championship game against the Buccaneers, where I have the Seahawks winning and going to the Super Bowl.
Wow, Seahawks. I liked yours a lot better up until you said the NFC Championship game. Just in terms of what I would want to see happen. That's interesting. Not the team that I would have that I have, obviously, and definitely kind of an interesting route you have them getting there. But listen, Seattle's really good, and I think that would definitely make the Jamal Adams trade worth it. I think for me, I think the number 1 seed has a huge advantage. But let's get into the AFC, and then we'll decide who's going to actually win the Super Bowl. So I have the Saints. You have Seattle. I'll do this first. I'm going to do it in a little bit of a weird order. So I'm going to do I think the 3 seed is the Tennessee Titans, and I think the 4 seed is the Buffalo Bills. I think both those 2 teams win their respective divisions. I think that's where to end up. I think that the 1 and 2 seeds are, in no particular order, the Chiefs and the Ravens. I think that picking the number 1 seed is going to be tough. And I thought a lot about this because I think this is a huge difference in who's going to end up winning. I think that I was saying Baltimore throughout basically, the entire offseason. I was like, once this 1 seed thing, that's a huge advantage for Baltimore. Kansas City is going to have to be a lot less tired or a lot more tired. Baltimore has this huge advantage that we all know. It's a huge advantage to, have that bye. Even forget about you don't have the chance of losing in wild card weekend, but you also just get that extra rest. But then the Earl Thomas thing happened yesterday. And then I'm like, I don't know. Is this an equalizer? Does Kansas City now end up as the number 1 seed? I thought about it. I'm still going to give it to Baltimore. One of the huge reasons why I'm giving the number 1 seed to Baltimore is the schedule. The Ravens play the NFC East, probably the weakest NFC division, and the AFC South, which if that's not the weakest AFC division, it's the second weakest. It's them or the Patriots. And again, it's not quite so simple because it's like you want kind of, if you're a good team, you're expected to beat everybody, but it's like who could potentially beat you? They play the AFC South, whereas the Chiefs play the NFC South, probably the worst division they could be going up against. And the AFC East, again, kind of an easier one, but at the same time, they could lose to Buffalo. They could lose to New England. In fact, a lot of those teams have really good secondaries, which is kind of a matchup problem for Kansas City. I think Kansas City's fine. I think they'll be the number 2 seed, but I could see them going like 12-4 again, whereas Baltimore ends up going 13-3 or 14-2. So with that, I now have, once again, there's 5 teams I think have potential to make the wild card. I have New England, I have Pittsburgh, Las Vegas, the Broncos, and the Browns. The 3 teams I am going to pick here, and the 2 I'm leaving out, number 5 seed I'm giving to the Steelers. I think their defense is just too good. The 6th seed I'm giving to the Raiders. I've already talked about why I like them. And the 7th seed I am giving to Denver, meaning the New England Patriots missing out on the playoffs altogether, and the Cleveland Browns as well. That's not that surprising, but the New England Patriots missing out on the playoffs, which means that for the wildcard weekend in the AFC, first you have the Chiefs versus Broncos. Chiefs win. You have the Titans Raiders. This one could be a really good game. Honestly, I'm really not sure, so I'm just going to give it to the Raiders to pander to my audience. But honestly, that one could go either way. We'll give it to Raiders. And then for the 4 or 5 seed, I'm going to give it to Pittsburgh here. I think Pittsburgh is better than Buffalo. I think they're a similar team. I think Pittsburgh is better on offense, and I think they're better on defense. So I think I'm going to give it to Pittsburgh. Meaning that for the 2 divisional games, you have Baltimore against the Raiders. Baltimore wins. You have the Chiefs against the Steelers. Kansas City wins. So now it's that 1 versus 2 matchup in the AFC Championship, the game we've all been wanting to see, Baltimore against Kansas City. I am going to give this to Baltimore. I think that the Baltimore Ravens go on to the Super Bowl, largely because of the bye. I think the bye really helps. I also think that, all those games have been close, but I think when you have the extra rest, you have home field advantage. As you said, I think there's a real chance there are fans in the game at that point. I kind of got to give this to Baltimore here. I think Baltimore is going to the Super Bowl. I don't think that's that crazy to say that Baltimore has the easier schedule. They'll end up as the 1 seed, and that could be the difference in the AFC Championship game.
Yeah, I think the schedule is going to help Baltimore. I agree with you on 1 too. I think that Baltimore is going to win based on that schedule. I think they're going to win that 1 seed for the AFC. I could see them having the best record in football again. I have the Chiefs. I mean, it's not really a shock. So yeah. I thought the AFC, like I said, got a lot better, but I still feel like there's 2 teams ahead of everybody else, and then there's everybody else battling for spots 3 through 7. But I think there's a lot of good teams in spots 3 through 7. They're just not as good as those top 2. So I have those 2 teams as 1 and 2. Obviously, if those 2 guys stay healthy, there's no reason to change that. I have the Patriots as a 3 seed. I think that, it backs up my stance on Bill Belichick winning Coach of the Year. I think he puts it together. I think they put together still a 10-6 or 11-5 season, which then has the Patriots haters who are saying that Belichick couldn't win without Brady, or Brady couldn't win without Belichick, going back and forth on all sorts of confusion because the Patriots are going to win 10 games without Brady, but Brady's going to win 11, or Brady's going to win the NFC and have the number 1 seed for the Buccaneers. So they're just going to go back and forth even more. I think the Patriots are going to go 10-6 and end up as a 3 seed. And my other candidate for Coach of the Year was Frank Reich. I think the Colts are going to win that division. I think they're a pretty complete team that I think are going to be very good. I think Phillip Rivers is going to limit the turnovers a little more this next season, so I think that helps. 5 seed, I'm with you all the way. Steelers. I think they're a very good team. They're just not Baltimore. That is going to be very good. Then my playoff teams were the Bills, Titans, Texans, Broncos, and Browns. I went with the Browns as the 6th seed because, I've talked about it to death. That offensive line is better. They're going to have a very good defense if Myles Garrett stays on the field. Stefanski's going to run the ball. They're not going to ask Baker to do much, and when he has to do a little bit, he's throwing to Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham Jr. That helps. Plus Austin Hooper, too, excuse me. So I have the Browns as a 6th seed. As a 7th seed, I went with Denver. I think that this is a playoff team. I think this defense is going to be very good. This pass rushing group is going to be very good with Bradley Chubb back. And I liked a lot of what I saw out of Drew Walk. Plus, he has good receivers next to him. I think this is going to be a very good group. I'm going to go with Denver as the 7th seed, which brings me to my playoffs. I like the Chiefs over the Broncos. I actually really like this matchup because I'm really excited to see Miller and Chubb go against Mahomes. I think this can be a fun game, but I am going to go with the Chiefs. They're just better. I'm going to go with the Patriots over the Browns. At the end of the day, I think the Browns are good enough to make the playoffs. I think they are a bounce back candidate. But if I'm having Baker Mayfield go up against Bill Belichick, I like Bill Belichick. Breaking news. I have the Patriots winning that one. I have 1, 2, and 3 moving on because obviously one gets the bye. And then 4 and 5, I have the Colts and Steelers. I'm going to pick the Steelers there just because I think that defense is good enough to win them a playoff game. I think they move on, which puts us against the Ravens and Steelers, which I think is a fun game to see. Because that defense going up against Lamar Jackson, which, and then the Ravens with their playoff demons of the last couple of seasons. I am going to go with the Ravens, though. I think they battle back and win this game. I think that's going to be a fun game overall, but I think the Ravens are a better team. And that's kind of ditto for the other playoff game here. Chiefs and Patriots. Like I said, I think there's 2 teams above everybody else as they're healthy. I think the Chiefs are just a better team than New England. And I don't think Bill Belichick has enough magic to work that out in his favor. And I hate when we agree, but I'm going with the Ravens over the Chiefs. I think the Ravens get a season, and I think they make the Super Bowl.
So you've seen the light. I've convinced one person that the Baltimore Ravens might actually be the favorites in the AFC.
The thing is when we were talking about the AFC North, I brought up a lot of that stuff with Lamar is can he come back and win a game then they really need him? But, I think it's fair to have that conversation now, but every young player across all sports, whether it's, LeBron James, whether it's Peyton Manning throughout all those years until they beat Chicago in the Super Bowl, every great young player has these conversations. Clayton Kershaw is another one. Can he do it in the postseason? I think he does do it. I think it's just a fair conversation to bring up now, and I think he does it this year. I think they make the Super Bowl. I think they're the best roster still in football.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that they got I think the only one team getting a bye, I think, helps them a lot too. I think that's a big advantage for them. So for the Super Bowl, I have Baltimore versus the Saints. I'm giving it to Baltimore. I think both these teams are great. I just think that the Saints, Baltimore does what they do better. They're greater at what they're great at, more so than the Saints. And I mean, we have seen Drew Brees kind of not played the best in postseason games recently. So I think it's fair to say Baltimore, although I could see that going either way. I'm going to take a guess. I think you also have Baltimore winning it over Seattle.
Yeah, so the big thing, it's my 2020 MVP prediction of Russell Wilson against the 2019 MVP Lamar Jackson. I would just love to see this game anyways. We could just make it happen. The reason why I had the Seahawks roll into the Super Bowl, I think, is because of the matchups that they have. 49ers would be a tough one for them, but if they play teams like the Saints and the Buccaneers, I just like that secondary to be able to get the job done. But the secondary doesn't really help them, I think, against Baltimore. And I think that's where that strength is kind of negated. And I think Baltimore wins the Super Bowl in that regard.
All right. Well, I'm happy that I am not the only person that thinks Baltimore favorites to win the Super Bowl. And again, it's kind of like it's all, again, like I say, it's all just what we think the best odds are. It's very logical that the Saints could win, the Chiefs could win. But I think that Baltimore is the favorite. So yeah, this is kind of a marathon show. First, I think this is a solid 40 minutes longer than our next longest podcast, but I thought it was good.
Yeah, it was good. I enjoyed that very much. It's going to be interesting to see how our predictions pan out, and I can't wait to be grilled in the comments about it.
Oh yeah, well they're already going to be wrong because Justin Herbert, MVP, now that he's fixed some fundamentals in practice.
Oh yeah. Practice legend Justin Herbert. I can't wait.
Yes. All right. Well, if anyone listened to this whole thing, definitely appreciate it. I know it went on for a while, but I thought we had a good show. We'll still have to figure out what we're going to do for next week. But this whole series has been a blast. I think a really fun way to break down all these teams. Kyle, any final thoughts before we log off?
I'm just ready for football to start at this point,
Yeah.
We've gone through all these teams. I think it's going to be fun to see all these teams and how they pan out. Devontae Parker, calm down. But I'm excited for the season.
Oh my God. So the Devontae Parker hater, Kyle. I already have my introduction for next week. All right. But until next time, everyone.